Ryan Carter, a man known for his wealth and confidence, rarely faced a challenge he couldn't buy his way out of. But when his closest friend, Jason Miller, proposed a daring bet worth $5 million, Ryan found himself at a crossroads. The wager was outrageous. Make Sophia Lane, a homeless woman with a fierce spirit, fall in love with him and agree to marry him? Jason leaned back with a sly smirk, his glass of whiskey catching the light. $5 million, Ryan. All you have to do is charm her. How hard can it be? Jason's words hung in the air, tempting and dangerous. For a moment, Ryan hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. But the lure of the challenge and the payday was too strong to resist. With a slow, deliberate nod, he agreed, masking his uncertainty behind a confident smile. Sophia Lane had no idea her life was about to change. Battling the daily struggles of homelessness, she had learned to trust no one but herself. Little did she know, the seemingly kind and handsome man who would soon enter her life carried motives far from pure. What began as a game would soon spiral into something neither of them could control. Sophia Lane sat on the cold steps of a city park, her guitar resting across her lap. The faint sound of strumming filled the chilly air as a few coins clinked into the small tin cup beside her. She avoided eye contact with passers-by, keeping her head low, but her proud posture betrayed an unyielding strength. Ryan Carter watched from a distance, hands in his pockets, contemplating his next move. Jason's words rang in his ears. $5 million, Ryan. Prove to me you've still got that irresistible charm. Yet as his eyes lingered on the young woman's weary figure and the quiet determination in her posture, a pang of guilt tugged at him. For a brief moment, he questioned whether he was crossing a line he couldn't uncross. A sly smile played on Ryan's lips as he crossed the park, his polished shoes clicking softly on the pavement. "Excuse me," he said smoothly, crouching slightly to meet her eye level. Sophia looked up, startled by the sudden approach. Her guarded blue eyes met his confident gaze. "What do you want?" she asked warily, her fingers instinctively clutching the neck of her guitar. Ryan smiled, a blend of charisma and intrigue. "I couldn't help but notice your music. It's beautiful," he said, gesturing to her guitar. Sophia frowned, clearly skeptical. "If you're not going to tip, just move along." Chuckling, Ryan reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp $50 bill, dropping it into her tin cup. "There, now, may I ask your name?" "Why does it matter?" she replied, crossing her arms. Ryan didn't flinch, his charm unwavering. "Because I'd like to get to know you. How about I buy you dinner, just as a thank you for the music?" Sophia hesitated. She wasn't used to kindness, especially from men in tailored suits. Something about him felt too polished, too perfect, yet the idea of a warm meal was tempting. "One dinner," she finally said, narrowing her eyes, "and don't expect anything else." "Fair enough," Ryan said, stepping back and offering her a hand. "By the way, I'm Ryan." Sophia ignored his hand and stood on her own. "Sophia," she replied curtly. As they walked toward a nearby diner, Ryan couldn't help but feel a small flicker of respect for her guarded demeanor. Meanwhile, Sophia tried to suppress her suspicion, unaware that her life had just stepped into the path of a dangerous game. The diner was a small, cozy spot tucked away from the bustling city streets. As Sophia sat across from Ryan, she couldn't help but feel out of place. Her frayed jacket and worn-out jeans clashed sharply with his tailored suit. Ryan, however, didn't seem to mind. He leaned forward with a casual smile, breaking the silence. "So, Sophia, tell me, how long have you been playing guitar?" Sophia hesitated, unsure if she wanted to share anything about herself. "A while," she said curtly, focusing on the steaming bowl of soup in front of her. Ryan chuckled, sensing her reluctance. "You're not much of a talker, are you?" Sophia looked up, her eyes narrowing. "I just don't see the point. Guys like you don't usually care about people like me." Her words stung more than Ryan expected. For a moment, he faltered, but he quickly recovered, his charm undeterred. "Maybe I'm not like most guys," he replied, his voice soft but confident. Sophia's lips twitched into the faintest hint of a smile. "We'll see about that." Over the following weeks, Ryan continued his pursuit. He began showing up at the park where Sophia often played her guitar, always with an encouraging word or a cup of coffee in hand. Slowly but surely, her walls began to crack. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the city skyline, Ryan handed her a wrapped package. Sophia eyed it suspiciously. "What's this?" Ryan hesitated for a moment before speaking. "It's something that reminded me of you, strong, beautiful, and full of potential." His words surprised even himself, and for the first time, he realized just how much she had come to mean to him. "Open it," he urged, his excitement evident. Inside was a brand new guitar, its polished surface gleaming under the streetlights. Sophia's breath caught as she ran her fingers along the strings. "Ryan, this is too much." He shrugged, his smile warm. "You deserve it. Besides, I want to hear your music the way it's meant to be heard." For the first time, Sophia let her guard down. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice carrying genuine gratitude. But Ryan's growing feelings for Sophia began to complicate things. What started as a calculated game was now something more. Every laugh they shared, every moment of vulnerability, chipped away at the cold, guarded man he once was. Jason's occasional remarks about the bet began to gnaw at Ryan's conscience. As much as he wanted to win, he couldn't ignore the guilt building inside him. Sophia wasn't just another challenge. She was someone he had come to care about deeply. Little did Sophia know, her trust in Ryan was about to be tested in ways she couldn't imagine. The rooftop restaurant sparkled with fairy lights, the city's skyline providing a breathtaking backdrop. Ryan had spared no expense, ensuring the evening was perfect. A private table was set with fine china and an elegant bouquet of roses. Across from him sat Sophia, dressed in a simple but beautiful gown he had given her, a token of his growing affection. Sophia looked around, slightly overwhelmed by the extravagance. "This is too much," she muttered, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her glass. Ryan smiled, his charm unwavering. "You deserve more than this, Sophia. Tonight is special." As the waiter poured wine and served the first course, Ryan kept the conversation light, making her laugh with stories of his childhood mischief. He couldn't help but notice how her laughter lit up her face, and for a moment he forgot about the bet entirely. When the dessert arrived, Ryan cleared his throat, suddenly feeling a rare wave of nervousness. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Sophia froze as her eyes fell on it, her breath hitching. "Sophia," Ryan began, his voice steady but filled with an unfamiliar sincerity. "I never expected you to become such an important part of my life. You've shown me what strength, resilience, and kindness look like. I want to spend my life making you as happy as you've made me." Opening the box, he revealed a delicate diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" Sophia stared at the ring, her emotions swirling. Her heart pounded as she looked into Ryan's eyes, searching for signs of deceit but finding only warmth. "Yes," she whispered, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I'll marry you." Ryan slid the ring onto her finger, relief and joy washing over him. But beneath his smile, a flicker of guilt lingered. As they toasted to their future, Jason's voice echoed in his mind. "It's just a game, Ryan. Don't forget that." For Sophia, the moment was pure magic, a dream come true. For Ryan, it was bittersweet. He had won the bet, but at what cost? The wedding was a dazzling affair. The grand hall was adorned with cascading white roses and sparkling crystal chandeliers, creating an ambiance of elegance and perfection. Sophia, in her flowing ivory gown, stood at the center of it all, glowing with joy and nervous excitement. Ryan, dressed sharply in a tailored tuxedo, felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he waited at the altar. The guests, a mix of his high society peers and a few new friends Sophia had made, filled the room with murmurs of admiration. Everything was perfect, or so it seemed. As the ceremony began, Jason Miller sauntered into the hall, his smirk as sharp as ever. He stood near the back, observing the event with a glint of mischief in his eyes. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, Jason cleared his throat loudly, silencing the room. "Actually," he began, his voice echoing, "I do." Sophia turned to face him, her brows furrowing in confusion. "Jason, what are you doing?" Jason stepped forward, his gaze shifting between Ryan and Sophia. "I think the bride deserves to know the truth about why our charming groom pursued her in the first place." Ryan's face went pale. "Jason, don't!" But it was too late. Jason relished the moment, his voice dripping with mockery as he revealed the truth. "It started as a bet. $5 million. Ryan was supposed to make you fall in love with him and agree to marry him. Simple as that." The room fell deathly silent. Sophia froze, her eyes wide as she stared at Ryan. "Is that true?" she asked, her voice trembling. Her heart pounded painfully in her chest, each beat echoing with disbelief and betrayal. The warmth she had felt for Ryan just moments ago now turned cold, replaced by an ache she couldn't ignore. Ryan stepped closer, desperation in his eyes. "Sophia, please, let me explain. It started that way, but it's not what it is now. I love you." "Enough," Sophia snapped, her voice breaking. "You used me. This was all a game to you." Tears streaming down her face, Sophia turned and ran out of the hall, leaving Ryan standing at the altar, his heart shattered. Jason shrugged, smugly satisfied. "Well, that went well," he quipped, before slipping out of the room. For Ryan, the joy and triumph of the day had turned into a nightmare. As the guests murmured in confusion, he stood frozen, unable to move, knowing he had just lost the woman he loved. The days following the disastrous wedding were the loneliest Ryan had ever experienced. The once confident businessman found himself consumed by regret and the pain of losing Sophia. Every attempt to call or message her went unanswered. Sophia, on the other hand, retreated into the safety of a small shelter she used to frequent. Surrounded by familiar faces, she tried to piece herself back together, but Ryan's betrayal replayed endlessly in her mind. Ryan knew words wouldn't be enough to win Sophia back. He needed to prove his love through actions. Driven by guilt and a newfound determination, he began volunteering at the same shelters and community centers Sophia had once mentioned. At first, it was awkward. His expensive suits and polished demeanor seemed out of place. But gradually, he became a familiar face among the volunteers and those they served. One day, Sophia visited the shelter where she used to volunteer. She was surprised to find Ryan there, kneeling on the floor, helping a young boy fix a broken toy. The sight stopped her in her tracks. This wasn't the cold, calculating man she once knew. This was someone different, someone who seemed to care. Sophia hesitated but eventually approached him. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice firm but curious. Ryan looked up, startled. His eyes softened as they met hers. "I'm trying to do something right for once," he said simply. Sophia crossed her arms, still guarded. "And you think this will fix everything?" "No," Ryan admitted, "but it's a start. I don't expect you to forgive me, Sophia. I just want to show you that I'm not the man I was when we first met." Sophia didn't reply, but she didn't leave either. Over the following weeks, their paths crossed more frequently as Ryan continued his volunteer work. He didn't push her to talk, but let his actions speak for him. Each time she saw him interacting with the children or helping distribute meals, a small part of her heart softened. One evening, as they cleaned up after an event, Ryan approached Sophia cautiously. "Sophia, I know I've hurt you deeply, and I know I don't deserve your trust, but I love you and I will spend the rest of my life proving it to you if you let me." Sophia looked at him, her walls still partially intact, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, perhaps hope. "It's not that simple, Ryan. You broke my heart." "I know," he said, his voice steady, "but I'll wait as long as it takes." Sophia didn't answer right away, but she didn't walk away either. For Ryan, it was a glimmer of hope, a second chance worth fighting for. It wasn't an easy road to reconciliation. After their conversation at the shelter, Sophia kept her distance, needing time to sort through her emotions. She couldn't deny that Ryan had changed, but the scars of his betrayal were still fresh. Ryan, however, refused to give up. He continued volunteering, often crossing paths with Sophia at community events. He never pressured her but made his presence known through quiet acts of kindness. When a storm destroyed part of the shelter, Ryan was the first to show up with supplies and contractors to help rebuild it. Sophia watched from a distance, torn between admiration and lingering mistrust. One evening, as the shelter organized a dinner for its residents, she saw Ryan sitting with an elderly woman, listening intently to her story. His laughter echoed across the room as the woman told him a joke, and for the first time, Sophia saw not the polished businessman, but a man capable of genuine connection. That night, as they cleaned up together, Sophia finally broke the silence. "Why are you still here, Ryan? You've done more than enough to prove your point." Ryan paused, setting down a tray of dishes. "Because proving a point isn't why I'm here anymore. I'm here because I love you, and I'm not giving up until you believe that." Sophia didn't respond immediately, but something in her heart began to shift. Over the next few months, Ryan's actions spoke louder than words. He helped organize a fundraiser for the shelter, dedicating it to Sophia's late mother, a gesture that left her speechless. He spent hours learning about her past, her dreams, and her fears, all without judgment or expectation. Finally, one quiet afternoon, as they walked through the park where they first met, Sophia stopped and turned to him. "Ryan, I don't know if I'll ever forget what happened, but I believe you've changed, and I think I'm ready to give us another chance." Ryan's eyes lit up, a mixture of relief and joy flooding his expression. "You won't regret it, Sophia. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure of that." The second wedding was a stark contrast to the first. This time, the event was intimate and heartfelt, held in the modest garden of the community shelter that had become a special place for both Ryan and Sophia. The air was filled with the soft fragrance of wildflowers, and strings of twinkling fairy lights created a warm, magical glow as the sun began to set. Sophia stood at the center of it all, dressed in a simple white gown that flowed gracefully with the breeze. Her smile was radiant, not because of the material grandeur, but because of the man waiting for her at the altar. Ryan stood there, his eyes locked on Sophia as she walked toward him, her hand resting gently on the arm of one of the shelter's longtime residents who had become like family to her. Ryan wore a tailored navy suit, but his demeanor was different. There was no arrogance, no calculated charm, just a man deeply in love, humbled by the journey that had brought him here. When Sophia reached him, Ryan took her hands, his voice steady but full of emotion as he began his vows. "Sophia, the first time I met you, I thought I was the one giving you something. A meal, a guitar, a chance at a new life. But I was wrong. You're the one who gave me everything: purpose, humility, and a love I never thought I deserved. Today I vow to cherish you, respect you, and grow with you every single day." Sophia's voice trembled slightly as she responded, her eyes glistening. "Ryan, you've shown me that people can truly change when they have the courage to face their flaws. You've earned my trust, my love, and my partnership. I vow to walk beside you, not just as your wife, but as your equal, through whatever comes our way." The small crowd of friends, shelter residents, and volunteers erupted into cheers as they exchanged rings. This time, there were no secrets, no lies. Just two people standing side by side, ready to face the future together. As Ryan and Sophia shared their first kiss as husband and wife, the setting sun bathed them in golden light, a perfect symbol of their new beginning. Ryan leaned close and whispered, "This is where we're meant to be." Sophia smiled, her heart full, and it was worth every step to get here. The days following the wedding were filled with a newfound sense of purpose and peace. Ryan and Sophia moved into a modest yet beautiful house they had chosen together, a home that reflected their journey and the values they now shared. For Sophia, the transition was overwhelming but joyful. She set up an art corner in their living room, where she painted during quiet mornings. Her pieces began to draw attention, with many of her works showcasing moments from her life on the streets, filled with raw emotion and resilience. Ryan, inspired by Sophia's passion, threw himself into their shared mission, supporting the less fortunate. Together, they expanded the community center where their wedding had taken place, transforming it into a hub for education, job training, and mental health resources. One afternoon, as they reviewed blueprints for the new wing of the center, Ryan turned to Sophia with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I never imagined I'd be doing something like this." Sophia looked up from the plans, a playful smile on her lips. "What, helping people instead of making millions?" Ryan chuckled. "Exactly, but honestly, I've never felt more fulfilled." Their work began to attract attention from others in Ryan's former social circle. At first, the curiosity came with skepticism, But as they saw the tangible impact of Ryan and Sophia's efforts, admiration followed. Wealthy donors joined their cause, helping them scale their initiatives and reach even more people in need. As time passed, Ryan and Sophia became known not just as philanthropists, but as advocates for change. They often visited shelters and schools, sharing their story to inspire hope and resilience. Sophia's honesty about her past and Ryan's vulnerability about his mistakes resonated deeply with those they spoke to. One evening, as they sat together on the porch of their home watching the sunset, Sophia reached for Ryan's hand. "I never thought I'd have this," she said softly. Ryan turned to her, his gaze warm. "You deserve all of this and more, and I'm grateful every day that you gave me a second chance." Sophia smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "You earned it, Ryan, every bit of it." The setting sun cast a golden glow over them, a perfect reminder of how far they'd come and the life they'd built together. Their love, once born from a lie, had grown into something real, strong, and unshakable, proof that even the most broken beginnings could lead to the brightest futures.